PCR was negative, and patient expired next day, and there was no chest finding, nothing was there.
Maybe the sample was not taken properly. The problem lies with taking a nasopharyngeal swab, which is a very difficult thing to do, because you have to tilt the patient next to 70 degrees, hit the turbinate to take a nasal swab, and hit the posterior pharyngeal wall.
He was put on ventilator, and this was from the tracheal suction. This sample was sent. So there was no question of not taking a proper sample. The proper sample was taken in front of us, because this was very dangerous to us also. So, but that case became negative. Matlab, this was PCR was negative. So sometimes you can find a false positive PCR also in 1 or 2 days.
Sir, but trachea is causing almost 95% positivity. Almost exactly. 97.
Yeah.
Lower respiratory tract secretion have a high positivity. So maybe there's some alternative diagnosis. Did you get an alternative diagnosis?
Yeah.
But his blood culture, everything was all negative. But within 2 days, the patient dies. But he has all the features of myocarditis along with the raised CPK, LDH, CRP, and serum ferritin levels, all suggestive of COVID.
Except for PCR, it looks like COVID. Huh? Whatever the presentation you are telling, it looks like COVID.
Exactly.
So rapid deterioration.
Yeah. So that's what I am saying, that sometimes you can get, but PCR may be negative. So we should not bang upon the PCR.
Sometimes the sample, the way it is transported, it is also very important, because if the cold chain is not being maintained, then the sample gets destroyed. The most important is taking the sample and transporting it properly. That causes more of false negativity than anything else.
So that's what I'm saying. Like we are getting the patients, but because of PCR should not be taken only one criteria for getting it COVID positivity. So we have to be extremely careful. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
No, Shukla, this is the only criteria to confirm it, to say yes, it is. Otherwise, you are in dilemma. Is any other alternative diagnosis if it is not positive?
So you should have an alternative.
That's all fine. That's what I'm saying. His ferritin levels were very high. It was more than 2000. His CRP was very high. His LDH was very high, and all the parameters. So top T was again very positive, but echo does not. Only some features of myocarditis was there. His BP fell down. He was on unventilator. His diarrhea was that stopped next day, but still he expired next day in the evening.
See, in such patient, what is recommended is that you repeat a RT-PCR after 24 to 48 hours. In case you are having a clinical picture of COVID and first RT-PCR is negative, you repeat another RT-PCR after 24 to 48 hours to prove that it is positive. But definitely diagnosis, as Dr. Gupta is saying, until you get a RT-PCR positive or a serological test positive in a setting of a clinical picture of COVID, you cannot label the patient as COVID. Based on clinical picture, you cannot label the patient.
But one thing is there, like patient expires, then what can you do about it? If patient expires, then how can you get the sample?
So treat him as a COVID positive patient. Dispose his body as a COVID positive body. So that is how.
Autopsy is difficult in a scenario like this, when the test has come negative and you tell the patient that he is likely to be COVID positive. It is going to create a lot of controversy and a lot of
Shall we move on to the next topic?
Yeah.
Dr. Shukla, how about this? There's a lot of things which is talked about rapid kit testing. Is it of any use, or it is just creating confusion amongst the society and amongst the doctor, or it has more of pitfalls than actually any beneficial value? So please throw some light on it.
So Dr. Meenakshi, in fact, this is very good test, provided we get the proper kit for it. That's the only thing. I'll tell you how it is so good. Whether you can test it anywhere, in any lab, you don't require a lab. You can test it on the bedside also. So this test is very good, being done in USA, UK, other countries also. Unfortunately, we have got the wrong kit. So this has created a lot of false positivity, what we call in our country and in the people. So, but this test is very good. It should be done the way I'm going to tell you. You will find all the things which are loopholes are there. you can fulfill these loopholes, you'll find that this test is very, very good, much better than PCR also.
How can
So
it be
I'll tell you what this test is. Hello?
What is?
Yeah. This, what is this test? In fact, we can do it with the, this is a qualitative lateral flow immunochromatographic assay for the detection of IgM and IgG antibodies to SARS-CoV-2 in the human blood, serum, and plasma. This is used to assist in diagnosis of SARS-CoV-2 infection and in serological epidemiological investigations also. So what is the principle of this test? The test cassette contains recombinant SARS-CoV-2 antigen conjugated to colored particles. When a specimen is added to the sample well of the cassette, only IgM and IgG present in the specimen will bind to the antigen conjugate, forming colored coronavirus antigen antibody complexes. This mixture migrates laterally along with the membrane to the in
Dr. Shukla, please
this
answer.
region, anti-human human IgG has any IgS live is found in acids. So what is sensitivity and specificity of this test, in fact? So sensitivity and specificity, that IgM specificity is 96.7% with confidence level of 95%. And the IgG specificity is 98.3% with confidence interval of 95%. So the specificity of this IgG IgM is very high, 96 and 98%. So how is sensitivity of this test? In fact, they have found that in the asymptomatic patients, the IgM is 55.6 and IgG is 44.4%. This is in the asymptomatic person. But as number of days of infection goes on, like from 2 to 10 days, you will find that IgM is 80.2% and IgG, which starts forming, is 19.6%. So from 10 to 20 days, you get 88.2%, and this IgG again goes up to 87.1%. And on 21 plus days, you will find that 42.9% of IgM, which is decreasing now, and IgG is now 100%. So you can see the sensitivity of this test increases as time goes on. Specifically for the IgM, it decreases and IgG goes on. So this is the sensitivity and specificity of this test. And if you want to have the test it properly, the medium incubation period is estimated to be 5.1 days. Before that, if you do it, you will not find anything positivity. The specific IgM and antibodies to SARS-CoV-2 can become detectable 3 to 5 days after the onset of symptoms, but the intensity of this response varies between patients. So again, very important factor. Therefore, for the application of diagnosing an active infection, this COVID-19 rapid test should not be used until symptoms have been present for at least 3 days. And the results must be complemented by other tests such as RT-PCR. If used to determine a suspected infection in the past, this test is best used for after 28 days from the first onset of symptom, when the antibody response has been peak. So I'll tell you how to interpret this one. So you have to listen very carefully, because this is one thing. If you miss it, then you will not be able to understand. It has been divided into 3 categories with the comparison with PCR, IgM and IgG. If PCR is present and IgG and IgM is negative, then patient may be in the window period of infection, that is asymptomatic stage. In asymptomatic stage, you get PCR, but you don't get IgM and IgG. That's very, very important. But once PCR is present and IgM is present, the patient may be in the early stage of infection. There's onset of symptoms. This comes on the 7th day of infection. When the PCR is present, IgM is present, IgG is present, patient is in the active phase of the infection, and this is after 14 day of IgG appearance. If PCR is present and IgM is negative, IgG is positive, patient may be in the late or recurrent stage of infection. And if PCR is negative, only IgM is present and IgG is negative, patient may be in the early stage of infection. PCR results may be false negative. This is very, very important factor again. If PCR is negative, IgM is negative, and IgG is positive, patient may have a past infection and has recovered. Then he is a fit person to donate his plasma for the recovery of other patients. If PCR is negative and IgM is positive and IgG is positive, patient may be in the recovery stage of the infection, or PCR may be false negative. So we have seen that PCR can be sometimes false negative in spite the infection is persisting, in spite the patient can be in the infective stage. So this is to be done, and if you take care for it, then you will find that the results are very good. At up to 95-96% positivity is there. So this is if it can be done properly. Where the problem lies? The problem lies because this is done with the blood, with the plasma, with the serum. So the sample collection is not a problem. The problem lies when it is the recombinant DNA technique, which is the particle is there for coronavirus 2. There is the problem. If that is not proper, then you will never get a proper result. So particle and COVID, recombinant COVID-2 antibodies has to be very proper. Probably what we have got from China, this was not a proper one. So this is about this. Now there are so many companies which are coming up, and they have found that in US, UK, and other countries, they are doing this test for the epidemiological survey also, for the what you call is for the diagnosis also. Unfortunately, we could not get such kits for us, and probably in future we'll be getting it. It will be much more better for PCR, and what we call is we send the RT-PCR before admission. So in this case, we can do this antibody antigen test before admission. If you find positive, we can confirm it. If it is negative, then no problems about it. So if any questions you can ask me.
So what about the false positivity of IgM?
False positivity of IgM is not there. It is not there. It's a question of time.
No, it is a serological test. All serological tests can be falsely positive. If there is an immunological disease, any IgM, any IgG can be positive. So there can be many false positivity. And you are saying if the patient RT-PCR is negative and IgM positive, you can label the patient as COVID. But COVID guidelines says unless the patient's RT-PCR is positive, you cannot label a patient as COVID.
No, that's what I'm saying. There are false positive PCR and PCR positive is more. But IgG, IgM, if you take in the proper time, it's question of time factor. If you are doing in a time factor in a proper way, you will not miss it, because it should be done after 7 days of onset of disease. 5 to 7 days. If you do it, then you will not find any problem with this syrup, because it is recombinant coronavirus 2 antibodies which is being used for this one. Hello.
Dr. Shukla, how long do the antibodies, the IgG antibodies, remain positive in the patients who are recovering from the disease? How long does it remain positive, the antibody test? Maybe, do we have any studies, or do the antibodies, they wane off after some time?
We can't hear you, Dr. Shukla. Dr. Shukla?
You see, what they say, ki IgM lasts for 24 weeks. Hello? Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah. This you see, IgM start from 7 days and last for 24 weeks.
24 weeks, 24 days.
Hello? hello, it's 24 days.
Fine.
And if it is the IgG, it can go for any length of time. It's not recommended. We don't know about it. So, but it starts only after 14 days. 14 days is the onset of it.
See, if it is RT-PCR negative and IgM positive, can you label the patient as COVID? That is what I want to ask.
This PCR positive and hello?
RT-PCR negative and RT-PCR 2, RT-PCR negative and IgM positive. Can you label the patient as a COVID patient?
Yeah, this may result in the early stage of infection. PCR result may be false negative. This is there.
I think there's some connection problem. We can't hear you very well.
Again, I'll tell you. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. If it is PCR is negative and IgM is positive, the patient may be in the early stage of infection. PCR results may be false negative.
Early stages
Hello.
PCR result will always come positive.
No, not always. It's a false negative also.
How can it be false negative? Antibodies are formed.
If
I think there's some connection problem.
where we have different combinations of it. Hello. Hello.
Dr. Gulab Gupta, what do you have to say regarding the serological test?
Yes, no, I just wanted to say that this RT-PCR is negative and IgM is positive. That means sample was not corrected properly for PCR.
Yes. The chances are very unlikely that IgM is positive.
Yes, it is very unlikely. It is unlikely.
Yeah, it is very unlikely, or the infection has just been cured.
You see, that's what I'm saying. Problem is that this is a report by the company which is manufacturing these kits. They have found like this: if PCR is negative and IgM is positive, this may be the early stage of infection, and this PCR can be false negative.
PCR cannot be positive. PCR cannot be negative in early stages also. PCR is a very sensitive method. It can become positive in the first day. It is positive even in asymptomatic patients. So even
that's what I'm
saying.
It's a false, it's a false negative.
False
it is
negative.
false negative.
Yeah,
Yes.
false negative. Not
I would like to know what are the implications of IgG positive and RT-PCR negative and IgM negative. Can these patients be taken up for surgery?
Yes, this can be taken for surgery.
Can you repeat your question, please?
Dr. Gupta, this patient can be taken for surgery.
Which patient? Hello.
He can be taken for plasma donation as well as for surgery.
Which patient? Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Can you repeat the question?
My question was that in case a patient is IgG positive, can he be taken for surgery without infection to the surgical team and without he himself getting harmed by the surgery?
No, but what about PCR? If PCR is negative?
Obviously, if the PCR has not been done, or it is negative, say both the conditions.
I'll tell you the condition. Hello.
PCR has to be negative before taking the surgery.
IgM is negative. Hello. Can you listen me? Hello.
I can listen to you.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
I think I can answer your question. The RT-PCR has to be negative. You just cannot.
RT-PCR has to be negative. Without that, you cannot. Any surgery, RT-PCR has to be IgG. Simply on the basis of IgG, you cannot go ahead.
So I don't understand any logic of doing a serological test, frankly. You actually cannot make a call based on a serological test other than doing an epidemiological study.
Right. This is only meant for surveillance purposes.
Surveillance and epidemiological studies.
And for donating the plasma, if we want to donate the plasma. So we can do it. Yeah, that's what. Otherwise, I think for public testing, it will create more confusion than actually sorting out the problem.
Right.
Because again, RT-PCR is gold standard to say whether somebody has infection or not.
No, that is there. That is gold standard. RT-PCR is gold standard. But this test can be done anywhere, provided the kit is good one.
Yeah, my question is, as you said, suppose there is a patient who has symptoms for say 5-7 days, and then this antibody test is negative, then in all likelihood he would not be a COVID patient. So suppose a patient has somebody has come with appendicitis with 5-6 days of some loose motion or whatever, and you want to operate that patient. If the IgG or IgM is negative, then the possibility of COVID
No,
is there.
that means his infection may be active. He's not yet developed antibodies.
For 7 days, that's what. No, after 3 days, the IgG.
See, even in dengue, it happens at time when the infection is florid, you do not develop antibodies.
I mean, I don't know, but I think maybe the precaution.
The patient can be asymptomatic. In that case, the patient can be asymptomatic, but PCR must be there, must be done to find out if PCR is positive and IgG, IgM is negative. This means the patient is asymptomatic and he cannot be like he's a COVID patient.
Okay,
Hello?
I think we need to have more of data on serological testing before knowing whether we can put this test for actual screening or not. But what I understand, it is not a good screening modality. It creates more confusion amongst doctor as well as in the patient mind, because a serological test which is negative does not rule out a COVID infection as a patient might think, and serological test positive does not prove that the patient is infected. So I think we need to have a serological test which is combined with RT-PCR to reach to any conclusion. So both are complementary, but independently, I think independently serological testing does not give any major advantage in terms of screening. That is why government has also held on to the serological testing in hotspots. So moving on to the third topic of the day, which is COVID and pregnancy. So I will be very quick since we are running short of time. We will just talk about COVID and its impact on pregnant women. So as we all know that it's not that COVID is more infectious in pregnant women. Pregnant women is also exposed equally to COVID infection as a non-pregnant woman. Secondly, it's not that pregnant women, if she gets a COVID infection, the chances that the complication will be worse will be more. Like there are more chances of pregnant women requiring hospitalization. There is a higher case fatality rate of pregnant women with pneumonia as with any other pneumonia. The higher chances of adverse pregnancy related outcomes like premature rupture of membrane, preterm labor, IUFD, and then more complications of neonatal death and prematurity in a pregnancy. This has been shown with other coronavirus epidemic. Like in SARS coronavirus 1 epidemic, also it was seen that chances of mortality was higher, chances of neonatal mortality was higher, and chances of perinatal mortality was higher, and the chances of preterm labor, stillbirth were higher in patients who had SARS coronavirus 1. But SARS coronavirus 1 was demonstrated to be more lethal and more dangerous to pregnant women compared to COVID-19 infection. There haven't been many studies which have shown the outcome of COVID on pregnancy, but in general, the outcome is not as bad as was in MERS epidemic or as was in SARS Corona 1 epidemic. There were few cases who had preterm labor. 46% of the patient had preterm labor in a study of 13 patients, which was done in China, and there was a case of stillbirth also in a patient who had a COVID-19 infection during pregnancy. But most of the pregnancy outcome have been not so bad, but definitely COVID-19 is associated with worst outcome of pregnancy compared to a person who does not have COVID. So we should avoid any COVID infection in the mother of if the person is pregnant. There is no documented cases of vertical transmission so far. Neither was in SARS coronavirus first epidemic, nor in MERS, and neither in COVID-19. So there is no documented cases of vertical transmission. There is no evidence to date of the presence of virus in the breast milk. There was a study by Chen et al. In China, which tested amniotic fluid, cord blood, neonatal throat swab, and breast milk from 6 patients who had a confirmed COVID-19 cases, and all the samples were negative for the virus. Pregnant women were mildly symptomatic, and time between maternal infection confirmation and delivery is not very clear, and this relates with the data which was done on SARS coronavirus 1. So key messages for pregnant patient is you offer them reassurance. They are not likely to get infected if they are pregnant, if they are keeping indoors. They are not likely to have more severe disease. The percentage of getting severe disease is same as in non-pregnant state. The vast majority of pregnant women will have a good fetal outcome. There is no evidence of teratogenicity, but the data is still very less. What about the pregnant healthcare workers? There are lots of things to weigh. Reassuring data from pregnant women infected with COVID-19. There are limited number of reports for pregnant women infected with SARS, MERS, or COVID-19. And evolution of the situation is one has to be isolated, cases have to be identified, and community transmission has to be stopped. So there are various guidelines on community transmission of in the pregnant woman. What we must know is few guidelines which MAPS has made. So I will just talk about it. During antepartum care, if the woman gets COVID infection, she has to be treated in the same way as a non-COVID patient. X-ray chest and CT scan can be done as freely as a non. X-ray chest and CT scan, the recommendation by ICMR has also taken out a booklet of around 15 pages in which they are saying you should not hold on to chest X-ray because it is required for the patient's management, and you can do a CT scan if you think it is going to add on to the management. So the same management has to be undertaken if the pregnant woman is positive, or if she gets infection during the delivery or during hospitalization. Now, every pregnant woman, before she is getting admitted into the hospital for delivery, has to do a RT-PCR within 1 or 2 days prior to admission. So it should, if it had been done 1 week prior to the admission, it has to be repeated, and it has to be done 1 to 2 days prior to the admission to the hospital. So once the RT-PCR is negative, person can be admitted. If the patient comes in emergency, obstetric emergency, like she comes with labor pain or she comes with a need for cesarean section, and it has to be taken immediately, then you have to treat her as a COVID positive patient. Full PPE has to be worn by the obstetrician, and full PPE has to be worn by the anesthetic team, and labor room, all the staff who is handling. The kind of delivery will depend on the obstetric condition. It's not that if the person is COVID positive, then the delivery has to be cesarean. If the person can have a normal delivery, she can have normal delivery. So there is no harm. But if the patient is in severe acute respiratory distress, or if the patient is critically ill, then call has to be taken to shorten the duration of labor. In that cases, one can go on to the cesarean section, but in the other cases, one can continue with the normal delivery. And all the procedures, one has to take care that all the deliveries have to be done with a full PPE on, and all the analgesia, epidural analgesia can be given. There is no problem in giving epidural analgesia. And cesarean section, as routinely done, should be done. Mother can feed the baby because there is no evidence of postpartum transmission. If the mother is COVID positive and she is delivering in your hospital, then preferably the child will get infection only through mother. So preferably the child should be isolated into the other room. Mother can express the milk and give the expressed milk in a container which has been adequately sterilized, and the express milk can be fed to the baby. Till the time the baby's RT-PCR reports come, first the baby should be kept away from the mother. Once the RT-PCR report comes and the baby comes negative and mother is still positive, if the call has to be taken whether the mother can breastfeed the baby, because the close contact of the mother can actually infect the baby. So if the baby is coming in close contact of the mother and the mother is positive, she should take adequate precaution. She should wear an N95 mask, gloves and everything. And she should clean her breast properly with alcohol swabs and everything, let it dry. And then only she should feed the baby. The breastfeeding can be done and should be done. And if the mother is severely infected, she's not able to feed the baby, then the expressed milk can be given to the baby. Or they are saying the donor, like there is a collective donor pool which can be given, which can be arranged from other pregnant women, and that kind of milk can be given. But the child must be isolated till we get a RT-PCR for the child, and then only the baby should be handed over. And all the pregnant women must be treated as COVID positive if you do not have the COVID result of the person, and all the PPE must be worn by all the labor room staff and all the ICU staff by the patient. And the treatment and management of COVID in pregnancy is same as in a non-pregnant woman, whatever the effect of HCQS on the fetus may be, because ultimately the call has to be taken for the mother. So this is about COVID in obstetrics.
So both are positive, both child are positive then?
And no precautions to be taken, then they can stay happily together. If the one is negative, then one has to take a lot of precaution. If the child is negative and mother is positive and mother wants to breastfeed, then advice is give a expressed breast milk. Mother can express and that can be given to the baby, and baby has to be isolated.
In general, all the elective surgeries, if they are COVID positive, they have to defer the operation till they are negative?
Yes, all the elective cesarean section or which are not so urgent should be deferred till they become COVID negative. COVID.
And what could have been the cause in the Jaipur, that medical cause, that hospital cause, that affected there? What could have been the route of transmission there?
If the patient had been admitted 2 days prior to the surgery, so he must have infected, or maybe the endotracheal intubation was not done properly. It was not done using a PP, and intubation is high AGP. AGP means aerosol generating procedure. If you are intubating, it is generating lot of AGP. So you have to be very careful. While extubating, you should try and keep minimum number of patients. And in cesarean section, they say it's better to do a spinal anesthesia than do the general anesthesia as far as possible. Because general anesthesia patient is AGP, high AGP secretions. So intubation has to be very careful, and as far as possible, then all the procedure should be done in a negative pressure.
Anything else?
Hello.
Dr. Shukla?
Yeah. Just I wanted to know that if mother is COVID positive and baby is again COVID positive, does mother secrete IgG or antibodies in her breast milk?
It has not been tested.
Okay. So that can save the baby if it is there.
Generally, babies do not get they get a perinatal transmission through mother secretion after delivery. So there is no evidence of vertical transmission or transmission through vaginal secretion as in hepatitis B. So baby will get only droplet transmission during after child.
No, I'm telling you about antibodies in the breast milk.
They would be. They
antibodies
should be
in the breast milk.
They should
can that be?
Yes, they can be protective, but I don't think any study are there showing that they have studied the antibodies in breast milk.
the antibody kit which has been recently under process in through that serum that I don't remember the company's name, and they say it is 100% sensitive, 100% specific. So why can't that test be equivalent to your RT-PCR?
That's not a serological test. The IIT Delhi kit which you are talking about.
Yes.
A fixed genome sequencing, and whether that genome sequences is sufficient to detect all the COVID virus, they themselves are not confident. So that is not a rapid kit test. It's not a serological test. It is a genome detection like a PCR method, but it is not very sensitive. It is likely to miss because the genome they are using is very limited.
Actually, they have removed one step from the standard PCR test. They have removed one step where the fluorescein detection probe or something is done. So what has happened is this probe takes a lot of time. So they say that the time is decreased, and more importantly, this probe getting this probe is difficult. So it's been manufactured at some places and it's not getting. So what they have said is probably removing that part would make the test more faster and less expensive. But how efficient it will be, we don't know. They have mentioned 100%, but I don't know. I don't believe any test can be 100% sensitive as well as specific. I mean, it has been approved by ICMR or whatever to start testing, but not approved by DGCA. So still, it's not something that we can get over the counter.
They plan to target that part of the genome which is specific to SARS-CoV-2.
Okay. But without that fluorescein testing, I think it is not very specific.
We'll see.
I don't know that.
We've not done, but the microbiologist, Dr. Dang and all have criticized the test because of that lack of fluorescent tagging. So we don't get that.
Finally, what is the fate of these kit which have been brought from the China, which are giving negative results? False.
Very difficult to say because serological testing as such has its limitation, because serology will come positive after infection if somebody develops antibodies. So if somebody is infected and is not developing antibodies, it will come as negative. In early stage of infection for 5 to 7 days when patient has not developed antibody, it will come as negative. So it actually does not serve much purpose. It has a complementary addition to the RT-PCR. So if with the RT-PCR it comes as positive, we are sure that patient has an infection. We can say whether the patient has passed infection, and we can say whether the patient has recovered of the disease. But for screening purposes, I don't think it has much. For epidemiological purposes and for plasma donation purposes, it is.
You feel that this is because of the political overtones in Rajasthan? That the rapid test kits have been.
Hello.
Dr. Shukla?
Yes. Now they are coming up with the S protein test. That S protein is there. They are going to introduce this. It is one of the serological tests.
Dr. Shukla का microphone खराब है मुझे का.
Bandwidth.
I think the connection is not very good.
He should switch off his video and he can talk on audio only. That will be better off.
I think so.
Next time we should use.
What I will say is now they are going to come with the S protein test. Hello.
Yeah, you can talk. We can hear you. We can hear you with the video because the connection was not very good.
Yeah, what I will say now they are coming with the S protein. This S protein is one way the virus enters the cell, and the ACE surface 2 like ACE2 receptors they join. Then they have got that S protein which is there. They liberate. Now they are going to come with antibodies of S protein, which is very specific of corona SARS virus 2. So once that comes to the market, it will be very specific.
If we come up with some antigen testing, I think it's going to be good, like we have it for dengue NS1 antigen. They're quite sensitive. So maybe
it is going to come. You see, it's still a lot of laboratories. They are coming up with a lot of antibody antigen testing kits, because in the future this will be the one of the best thing, because I told you, it can be done bedside, and there has to be very specific for it. So S protein, which is going to be there, is going to give a new outlook to this coronavirus.
Definitely, definitely. So we had a very good discussion on the modes of transmission of coronaviruses, the role of rapid testing, and COVID in pregnancy. So thank you, Dr. Chakravarti. Thank you, Dr. Shukla. Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Dr. Gupta has another question.
Not a question. It is a supplement to what Dr. Meenakshi said. And during the labor, it is not the gynecologist or the obstetrician which is at risk, because she is standing at the end of the vaginal land where the baby is going to come out. It is mainly the staff nursing and the paramedical staff who is standing at the patient's head side when the patient is shouting and the patient is breathing, and more of the aerosol generation procedure is taken. So it would be good that the patient is given a proper mask, and all the people who are standing near the patient are protected rather more than the gynecologist.
Yes, definitely. So what you are adding is very correct. Patient also has to be given a mask, because patient shouts and yells, and the more you shout, the more AGPs you generate. So everybody has to be given a mask.
It should be a soundproof mask for the patient.
No, it's not a matter of. And adding one more thing to what Dr. Chakravarti said, he said that the alcohol takes around 30 minutes to act. I think it is only 30 seconds which alcohol takes to act against the virus, and it is around 20 minutes for the hypochlorite solution that it takes time. So whenever the hypochlorite solution spray is done, it should not be mopped immediately and should be allowed to stay for about 20 minutes.
Very true.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you for your always ready content, Dr. Gupta. So you always add on some information to our knowledge. So that's very good. So thank you.
One more thing, can I add upon, if you permit me?
Yeah, please.
What I understand is that there are some reports that the virus has been found in the fecal matter, but whether it is a live virus and it is capable of transmitting the disease is yet to be proven.
Yes.
The RT-PCR can detect even the RNA particles which are dead, and only one study has shown that the only live virus was seen, and whether it was there in the amount that it could transmit the virus by fecal-oral route is yet to be proven. Secondly, SARS-CoV-2 virus is a respiratory virus, and most of the respiratory viruses, they are transmitted by the droplet infection, and so the most common route of transmission is going to be droplet infection, while the gastrointestinal viruses, they are transmitted by the fecal-oral route. So I don't think in times to come there will be much evidence to say that it is transmitted by the fecal-oral route. And secondly, the aerosol generation in the commode, it is of course the concept is there. Kindly let me complete. The concept of aerosol generation while flushing in the English commode is always there for a long time, and it is all best that we use the lid to cover before we start the flush.
Thank you for your comments.
Dr. Gupta, can I add to this? Hello.
Dr. Shukla, can you hear me?
Hello, Dr. Meenakshi. Dr. Meenakshi, I'd like to add something to this. Yes. Can you hear?
We can hear you. We can't see you because your video has been off, but you can hear you.
Okay. I like to add to contradict his statement, because SARS-1, which was there in Hong Kong, the oral fecal contamination with the sewage was there, and whole of the society got infected with this. So this is there the text. If you see the Hong Kong coronavirus infection, you will find that there is a fecal-oral and sewage disposal which made everybody to get this infection. So this there already text and this is proven. But I don't know about this coronavirus too. But that is already there in the text.
Sir, it is a CDC recommendation that it is not a fecal-oral route of transmission. It is the aerosol generation by the virus in the sewage, which led to the infection of the sewage workers, and it is there on the CDC side. But it is not by way of fecal-oral route. It is by way of aerosol generation in the sewage treatment.
That's what I'm saying. Please see the text. If you see the text, Hong Kong coronavirus infection was only through the fecal oral route.
Sir, if may I intervene, I am Dr. Kunal Das and I am a gastroenterologist. So I do have COVID-19 read about the studies. There are a lot of GI symptoms in terms of vomiting and nausea, vomiting, and also there are many studies about fecal COVID RNA being found in the feces, but there is no hardcore evidence. There may be, I am not very sure about this Hong Kong cases that you have told, but there is no hardcore evidence that whatever fecal transmission of COVID is there, it goes to cause aerosol or it causes the COVID influenza-like symptoms or SARI by formites transmission from oropharyngeal route. It is well known that yes, the virus may be transmitted, is present in fecals, but whether it is infective or not, that is not proved beyond doubt at this time of at this presence of time.
That's what we have been discussing.
Dr. Kunal Das.
The RNA can be dead RNA also. That's what Dr. Gupta was saying, that it may not be active RNA. It could be just the virus shedding, which is not live virus shedding. So whether it is responsible for community transmission or not, we are yet to find out. So another thing is
Dr.
contact.
Dr. Meenakshi. Dr. Meenakshi.
Hanji, boliye sir.
Yeah. You can see this thing in textbook of internal medicine and coronavirus about the Hong Kong, how it is spread in the Hong Kong. So you can read that one and you see that how it was there, and that will confirm the whole thing.
But that coronavirus is different, sir. So we should not mix all the viruses, because all viruses are behaving differently. The MERS, the SARS, and this thing. So we should not extrapolate what is there with SARS, with this. So till the time we get further information, I don't think we should spread this message that it can transmit to fecal oral route, because then we are totally doomed.
Achha, one more thing. What about close contact with the animal? There are case reports that virus was found in cats. Then there was a case report that the virus was found in tigers. So what about the infectivity in the animals?
Only anecdotal reports, not many.
Not many. So either the testing is not being done or they are not getting infected. What it is? Maybe we are not testing them.
I think not the pets around in the society are dying and they are having infection. They are not being shown to be like. I think the MCD must be vigilant about it, and the local corporations must be vigilant. Had the animals been getting infection, there could be some observational data.
But maybe the carriers that can be there. So I think can we give an advice to avoid close contact with animals?
I think that the advice about the pets is very clear. There is no transmission. There is no need to remain away from the pets. Yeah, and in case we say that this advice that remain away from animals, it is going to have a lot of implications in the villages where the cattle are reared up for all these things, for the milk and all, so many things. So we have to be very cautious in this advice.
Yeah, I think the important thing that we should also understand is the virus is dangerous, but I think the panic and this thing that is being created is probably more dangerous, because it is as if everybody is so afraid, as if it is something that if you have an infection, you will definitely die. It's not something where it's not a death sentence. So I think we should be very careful when we say that about pets and all. I understand.
It's a sentence for 28 days.
I think we should evaluate it scientifically. What we should discuss is scientific. I don't think so there's any evidence of transmission to pets. There was one report which I said that in Hong Kong only, that the cats or the dog had coronavirus, but which turned out to be later on negative. As such, there are no widespread reports of coronavirus being transmitted to pets. As of
even in countries where it was very rampant, like Italy or all, there have been no reports where they have infected. So probably it's not.
One tiger was infected, rather. So WhatsApp, on WhatsApp.
WhatsApp tigers can be infected by anything.
I wonder who took the nasal swab of the tiger. How did they suspect, and who ventured out to take the nasal swab?
What I read, how is it taken? Let me clarify. The tiger is in fact sedated with an injection given by arrow. The arrow is shot down into the tiger, and then the tiger is sedated. One can try and venture it out with the light.
And the moment if the tiger wakes up during taking a nasopharyngeal swab, till the head to 70 degree, hit the inferior terminate of the nostril or hit the posterior pharyngeal wall, and tiger wakes up. So that has been very positive discussion, and we definitely learn a lot from each other's experience. Thank you everybody for joining in. I hope everybody is staying on. Special thanks to Dr. Kuldeep Dhar, Dr. S.K. Gupta, Dr. Kunal, Dr. Shukla, and Dr. Saibal Chakravarti, Dr. Gulab Gupta, who have all participated. So we'll meet again on next Friday from 5:30 to 6:30.
And to Meenakshi Jain in the end.
Yes, that you will thank me. And Dr. Amitabh for arranging and for being there, organizing.
He is always the backbone.
He's an
One suggestion. These days Zoom is very.
We will not do it on Zoom. We'll try to find another apparatus, but let us.
Actually, I was trying to find another one, and I got this Microsoft Teams. But I think it's very difficult. It's very cumbersome. Even
it's very cumbersome. Unless you invite everybody by mail and you just to log in for everyone is going to be hell of a difficult thing.
So even with Zoom, people are finding it very difficult. So I think let it be.
No, it's not the question कि आपकी meeting में से क्या ले लेंगे. The question is as long as the app is there on your phone, then there's some sensitive data, some passwords, the bank accounts, and all those the details can be accessed whether or not, we do not know. But as long as the meeting data is not may not be very important.
No, there are two things. I think this is also probably more of a hype. But then even if it is there, so we really don't need to install the Zoom every time, or even we don't have, even if you are using it through the computer, you don't need to install the app. It asks for installation, but if you say no, it can run through the browser also.
Gateway ID. They ask for ID and password and nothing else.
Yeah. So ID and password you already have through the message. So you don't need to download the app per se. But obviously for convenience purpose, we have downloaded the app.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you everyone.